Previously on the Skip and Josh Sports Show.
Today we're both in Montreal, actually. We decided to have a company-wide meeting where all the employees of the company came to Montreal for a meeting to talk about the rebrand of our show.
Right, and we're meeting right now in my basement.
Yeah.
And the total amount of people here is 2.
Yes, that's
Right.
the entire members of our organization.
The Skip and Josh Sports Show is on now.
Skip,
Hey, what's up?
how are you?
I'm doing great.
So, as we did in the last couple episodes, I'm going to set the scene for the listeners. I'm back in Toronto now. So you're in Montreal. We're not in the same room. I can't see you. That means we're going to interrupt each other all the time.
Actually, it mostly means I'm going to interrupt you.
Yeah, that's what happens.
It is what happens. It's
Yeah.
really pathetic. It's if the listeners only knew.
Well, they do because they listen.
No, but if they only knew what what the episode sounded like before I edit out all the times I'm interrupting you.
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah. So we're going to stick to our new kind of format, which is one subject per episode, right?
I like that format.
Right. So last episode we did hockey only, and today we're going to kind of do a roundup of all the action in the off season so far in the NBA, because it's been a busy weeks in the NBA since our last episode with the draft, the awards, and a bunch of trades and movement, and Phil Jackson, different things like this. So I mean, that's where we're going to go with it, right?
Just to clarify, it's not just NBA; it's basketball. So we
Yes.
may talk about the NCAA as well.
Well, I mean, yeah, I'm sure we will. Once we start talking about the draft, and
And we're allowed to talk about the WNBA as well. Like we're not limited to just the NBA. It's basketball.
well, we're allowed to talk about whatever we want. But
Yes.
do you have any knowledge of the WNBA?
I know
don't
that
think-
there's a team called the Mystics.
That's strong.
That's it.
Okay, cool. So, I wanted to, before we get into the basketball, just to keep the listeners up to date about our big rebrand project that's going on. So in the coming weeks, like, we've started this rebrand by, content-wise, by sticking to one subject, which is what we want to do.
Mm-hmm.
And in the coming weeks, we're going to maybe unveil a new logo and possibly a slight change to the name of the show. We've got a lot of focus groups right now pondering and the new possible naming.
We've hired the most expensive marketing company in the country to help us with this rebrand.
Wow, I didn't know.
But we don't have any budget, so hopefully they won't send us a bill.
Okay, good. That's perfect. So where do you want to start with the NBA?
I want to go in chronological order, so
All right.
I think
The
we
draft.
should start with the draft.
Right.
Now, so I watched a bit of the draft. Actually,
Mm-hmm.
I think I watched a bit of it with you.
Yeah, we
Seems
were.
like,
We
it
did-
seems like such a long time ago.
Yeah, well, I think we recorded an episode and we kind of watched the draft on like a half-hour tape delay.
That's right.
Yeah.
And I also watched part of the NHL draft. I think I was also with you, possibly. Was
yeah,
I?
you were, and it was incredibly boring.
So anyway, so I'm not going to get into, and hopefully you will, but I'm not going to get into if the picks were good or not, because really, you could throw the top 5 guys into a hat and just pick whichever one you want.
It's very true. Yeah, yeah.
They've only played 1 year of college, so what do you really know about these guys? But what I want to compare the NBA draft to the NHL draft.
Sure, that's awesome. I didn't know you were going to do that. Go ahead.
So well, the NBA draft is much shorter. First of all, it's only 2 rounds.
Right.
And most of the guys that are picked, I mean, I actually have heard of some of the guys that are picked in the NBA draft because I follow NCAA basketball.
Right. Well, because in the NBA, there's this big showcase for the players, which is called the NCAA tournament.
Yes.
And we devoted about a month or more of episodes of our show just on the NCAA tournament. So we got to see Lonzo Ball, Jason Tatum, Josh Jackson, De'Aaron Fox, all the top picks, even guys, pretty much everybody in the first round. Like, I knew who they were. And, the NHL doesn't have that,
The ironic thing is that the first overall pick in the NBA draft was not in March Madness.
It's bizarre, honestly.
And so time will tell if he really is the best player of the bunch. But what was interesting before the draft even started, I think a couple of days or 3 days before, the Celtics traded away the top pick.
Right.
So what that tells me is if you're trading away the top pick, then obviously you're not in love with anybody in the draft. Like if you're okay picking first, second, third, fourth.
That's exactly what Danny Ainge said. Yeah.
Right. And so in my opinion, I think that was a good trade for the Celtics and a bad trade for the Sixers, because the Celtics, what happens? They got 2 picks later than what they would have had. Plus they also got a high pick next year.
Well, Danny Ainge has been all about, in the last 5 years, he's all about basically just collecting assets. He has a collection of first round picks and players, and just anytime he can get a guy that he thinks has any value, he's going after it. And draft picks have value. So by moving down, he got their draft pick, Philadelphia's draft pick for next year. And
I think that could come back to bite the Sixers.
Well, I mean, look, the Sixers are they're on the right path. They're trending the right way. Look, they've had the first overall pick the last 2 years, and
more than that, no.
Well, the first overall, really, the first overall. I don't know if Nerlens Noel was first overall or Okafor, but they've had top 5 picks the last 4 years, right?
I think even more.
Yeah, but
and they keep getting injured.
Yeah, but they're trending the right way, and as an organization, they're trending the right way. Because I can tell you, 2 years ago, I went to a Sixers game in Philadelphia. I bought tickets day of game for $15, and the arena was literally 50% empty. And now, you can read in the papers, and actually, Mark, our Philly correspondent, texted me about it, saying season tickets are sold out.
Really?
Yeah, every game this year is going to be sold out. They're projected.
I'm stunned.
For the Sixers.
I'm stunned.
Because there's a hype around the team right now in the city because of Fultz and because Ben Simmons, the anticipation, because he was injured last year, and mostly because of Joel Embiid, because he was so good. Joel Embiid is the best center in the NBA if he's healthy, right? The problem is Ben Simmons hasn't played any games in the NBA. Embiid has played 30-something games. So there's a lot of question marks, right? But I mean, certainly the Sixers, I think, are hoping that they are going to be a playoff team. And then to get back to what the Celtics are doing, it brings up an interesting question, what you said, because like you said, nobody knows, right? Nobody knows. Does anybody know for sure who's going to be great? They think they know, but
it's a crapshoot.
It's a crapshoot. So, obviously the Celtics scouts didn't feel that Markelle Fultz was that amazing, and they said, you know what, they think that the best player in the draft is Jason Tatum, and why should we waste our first pick if we can take him third and get a pick for next year?
Right.
So which is interesting is because everybody thought the Celtics were going to take Josh Jackson, and I told my son the day before the draft the Celtics were taking Tatum.
Yes, you also told me.
I told you, because he can shoot. Josh Jackson can't shoot. They already drafted Jaylen Brown last year. The last
time I checked, shooting was an important skill.
Exactly. Tatum is an extremely dynamic player, and there's no way he's not going to at least be a strong contributor in the NBA. Whether he's a star, we don't know. But can he play? Yes. Right?
So they might still think that Fultz is a better player than Tatum, but they were willing to give him up in order to get an extra pick next year. And I think that's a good move, especially because, and this is something I alluded to a few weeks ago, I mean, as long as LeBron James is playing in the league and in your conference,
you're in trouble.
There's not much chance of you getting to the finals.
But you could say the same in the West, right?
Yes, what you can, exactly. So in other words, all the other teams, they shouldn't be thinking about now or even next year. They should be thinking down the road. And if the Celtics keep stockpiling all these young guys, then they're going to be great one day.
Yeah,
in
2020,
theory.
2021, right?
It might take a while, but So getting back to the draft for a second, what was interesting to me is, after every player was drafted, they went to the same reporter who was sitting there on the floor. I don't know her name, unfortunately. And, obviously she asked the usual questions. How does it feel to be picked first overall or second overall? And how does it feel to be picked by this team or that team? Mm-hmm. But one question that she asked, I think every first round pick is, what designer is your suit?
Yeah.
And that was almost as if I was watching like the red carpet at the Oscars. You would never see that on the NHL draft.
Well, there's a lot of flair, right? The NBA draft, it's just that's the difference between basketball and hockey. Basketball is so much about the superstars, the flash, the glitz. They're all friends with rappers. They all have celebrities courtside. It's a celebrity Hollywood league, right? Mm-hmm. Whereas the NHL, the guys have helmets. You can't even see their faces half the time. And I don't want to say anything negative against our American neighbors to the south, but hockey is full of Canadian kids, and Canadians are polite and humble. It's a different type of personality, hockey player and basketball player.
I think the players that are drafted in the NHL draft are also younger, I think.
It's close though. Aren't they drafted at 18 in the NHL?
But in the NBA, I think they're 19 and sometimes even 20.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
In the NBA, so they are younger in the NHL.
Right. So they may not, but also they haven't. A lot of these guys have when you're playing on UCLA or Duke or Kansas or Kentucky, you are a star in your city.
Yeah. Well, not only in the entire country.
No, but like you're really a star on your campus, right? And in your conference.
For sure.
So, Jason Tatum and Jackson and De'Aaron Fox and especially Lonzo Ball with his maniac father. I mean, these guys are used to having a million cameras around them and a million microphones in their face.
Absolutely.
After every game, after every practice,
But we talking about practice, man. What are we talking about? Practice?
And the NHL guys, it's like ho-hum, they're just going about their business.
Yeah. Other than the World Junior Championships, and most of those kids are already drafted, there's not much spotlight on those guys.
No, there's not, and the spotlight on them is a Canadian media spotlight, which is 1/10 of the size of the Americans.
Right.
We're not going to go over all the picks. Like you said, the top 5 are the top 5. Everybody kind of knew what they were going to be. Because we're Dukies, right? I just wanted to point out
there were 4 Dukies picked, right?
Yeah.
I think
so. Luke Kennard got picked 12th by the Pistons, which is,
I think of the 4 Dukies that got picked, I think he's the best one.
It's the correct pick. Like, he was the best guy available, and they took the best guy available. But, just think about Luke Kennard, how far this guy's come in the last 2 years, right? He was an afterthought last year. Remember, he wasn't supposed to be a starter last year.
Yeah.
And he was kind of thrust into a starting position, and he exploded. He was an incredible scorer, and he picked up this year exactly where he left off last year. And he was our best player. He was Duke's best scorer this year for sure, right? Mm-hmm. So hats off to him, because just goes to show, when they show you the projected draft at the beginning of the year versus what it really is, things can change, and you play well, you get noticed, right?
Right. I think 12. I think he should have gone higher.
Yeah, and then and the flip side of that is Harry Giles going 20th because he was preseason number 1, right? This guy was supposedly
he hardly
the best.
Played. He was injured.
Yeah.
I don't think he should have even come out for the draft, to be honest.
Well, he I guess he should have, because he knew he was going to get picked. His stock probably would have risen if he would have stayed another season. And then the one who we've talked about for sure was Frank Jackson. Mm-hmm. He was picked the first pick of the second round, and he was picked by Charlotte, and then eventually just traded to New Orleans. I don't know why this guy even came to the draft. Like, he should have stayed another year in college, and he would have been possibly a top 10 or 12 pick.
He decided late that he was going to opt in for the draft.
Honestly, I think he's getting bad advice from an agent, and when you're a second round pick, there's no guarantee you're playing. He's probably going to the D League, and I don't know. If it was me and I had the choice of going to the D League or playing another year in college, I'd take another year in college.
I would too. Although at least you do get paid in the D League, so maybe that might be important. I don't know if that's important to him, but
yeah, he's going to get an entry-level contract, and that's a lot of money, but you have to look at the big picture too. If you're a top 10 or 12 pick, you're going to make your team and you're going to get a big contract. And there's something to be said to that, just staying in school for that second year, One
funny thing about the draft that I forgot to mention earlier right as the first Kentucky player was being picked, I turned to you and I said, I bet you're going to see John Calipari on the screen in the next 10 seconds. And sure enough, there he was.
Yeah, he's there hugging all his guys.
Yeah.
Well, you're the one that told me he said he calls the draft the graduation.
That's
right?
his graduation day.
Yeah, well,
for
because
his
none of those
players.
guys are actually graduating, right? So.
I guess not.
Hi there, Skip and Josh will be right back. To get in touch with them, you can send them an email to skipandjoshshow@gmail.com. You can follow them on Twitter @skipandjosh, and you can visit their website at www.skipandjosh.com. And now, back to the show.
All right, so you wanted to talk about the awards.
I want to talk about the award show a little bit because I watched the NBA award show and the NHL award show.
Unfortunately,
and,
I couldn't watch all of the awards. I only saw the kind of the highlights after.
I have to say that I thought Drake did a good job of hosting.
Drake is very talented. You can say whatever you want about this guy, but
I'm
he's
not
very
a fan
talented.
of him. I'm not a fan
No,
of his, but
I'm
he
not a
did a
fan
good
of-
job hosting the show.
I'm not a fan of his music, but I think he's an extremely talented person. He can act, he can make music, he can sing, rap, whatever. I think he could do anything, this guy.
And I don't know if he wrote all of his material, but I thought that his monologue was funny.
No, I'm sure the show has writers.
And I also, and I'm going to mention one of the skits that he did because I
Is it
alluded.
the handshake skit with Will Ferrell?
No, I actually didn't like that one.
Okay.
The one I liked was, and I alluded to this on our show a few weeks ago, he was talking about how players bring their kids to the podium with them.
Right?
And he said the reason they do it is because they want to deflect the attention from them. And so they don't get asked the hard questions, or if they do get asked the hard questions, they change the subject or avoid the subject. Now, I
Right.
realize it was a skit and it was meant to be funny, but there's a bit of truth in it.
There's tons of truth. Well, usually the funniest bits are when there is truth, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So anyway, I just thought that was funny. Now,
That's awesome.
As for the MVP, I'm not going to talk about every award that was given out.
No, there's too many ridiculous awards. You like, I mean,
But the MVP was Russell Westbrook, and I just want to give you my take on that. Mm-hmm. I agree with him winning the MVP because, first of all, this is a regular season award. So for anyone who says that James Harden beat Russell Westbrook in the playoffs, that doesn't matter because this is a regular season award. And if you look at the numbers, I'm pretty sure that Westbrook had better numbers than Harden in most categories.
just barely, but he had better numbers.
Okay, so to me, that's how you determine who the MVP is.
Yeah.
Also, you won't agree with me on this, but James Harden had a better supporting cast around him.
Barely also, but yes.
So that to me means that Russell Westbrook deserves it even more. Now, his acceptance speech, he asked all of his teammates who were there to come up on stage, which was nice. I thought that was nice.
I thought it was like he was taking a shot at Durant,
Oh, okay, that's fine. I didn't think that.
trying to show what a team guy he is, and look at you, KD, you left us, and we're a brotherhood, and we're still going to do this without you. That's the way I looked at it.
That's fine. I will say, though, that he was on the stage too long.
Well, it's the last award,
He talked for way too long, and I know that he wanted to thank everybody, but I think it could
His
have been
brother, his little brother, or his older brother.
right. I think it could have been done a little quicker. Anyway, what do I know? I've never won an MVP for the NBA or any league, so maybe I'd spend even more time on stage if I did win.
You didn't win the MVP of the JBHL.
I should have,
Okay.
but they didn't give out awards. So, yeah. So anyway, I actually enjoyed the show. I mean, I'm not the biggest NBA fan, but I actually enjoyed the show. Also, when they kept cutting to the TNT panel with Barkley and Shaq, those two guys, do they really hate each other?
Well, there's some bad blood lately. It's been in the last month where they've had like some Twitter feuds and actual some real heated exchanges, during the NBA finals and during the draft, and I don't know if they hate each other, but there's definitely some tension there.
Anyway, it was funny to watch.
Well, they're great. I mean, Barkley and Shaq are both great at their job, right?
And is it Kenny Smith who's the other one there?
Yeah.
Even though he went to North Carolina, I actually like him.
Well, he's good on the air.
Yeah.
I mean, he does a good job. I mean, yeah, you're right. We usually hold it against anybody who went to North Carolina, but
True.
I respect Kenny Smith as a broadcaster, and he was a good player.
So do you want to talk about any awards, or you want to move on to the
Well,
trades?
just about the Russell Westbrook, James Harden, like you said, he won, he deserved it. I don't know how close the vote was. Harden had a great year, and like you said, you said that people who are saying James Harden should win have to remember it's a regular season award. Yes, they voted before the playoffs started. But if you're one of those people that voted for James Harden for MVP, you should feel vindicated knowing that the Rockets dismantled Westbrook in the playoffs.
But I mean, I don't think one has anything to do with the other because
It has
Houston
to do with
is
the
a better
other.
team than Oklahoma. They are.
They are, but it's still five. It's still like five people on the court, and one guy is Westbrook, and one guy is Harden. So it is like a mano a mano in a way, right? It's a regular season award, and you know what? If Harden would have won, I would have said congratulations. If Westbrook would have won, I would have said congratulations. To me, the NBA MVP is really doesn't mean very much. Karl Malone won the NBA MVP when Michael Jordan was still in the league, scoring 30 points a game. So what does that tell you? A lot of times this MVP award comes down to boredom on part of the voters, that they don't want to vote for the same guys over and over, because really, who should have been the MVP? LeBron James should have been the MVP. They just didn't want to vote for him because he's won it already a few times.
Okay, but so getting back to something you said, the MVP doesn't really mean that much. It doesn't really mean that much in any league.
Yes, I agree.
So,
but I think less in the NBA, because I feel like the voting is just like it's on a whim, I just don't respect the way they vote. I mean, LeBron is the MVP. He's definitely the most valuable player in the league. They just, he won already a few times, so we won't give it to him anymore. And that's happened for many years. It's happened over the years many times,
But if Westbrook went to the Cleveland Cavaliers,
well, that's what's interesting now, right? Because Westbrook is in his last year of his contract now. So is he gonna stay true to his word? He brought up his posse on stage and said, "We're a brotherhood, we're family. I love these guys. I'll go to war with them." And then what is he gonna do next year? Is he gonna re-up with Oklahoma City and sign an 8-year contract, or is he gonna go and form a super team on the Spurs?
we'll see. I mean, he can do what he wants. I won't have an issue with whatever he does. I don't really care.
He can do whatever he wants, but all the crap that came out of his mouth directed towards Kevin Durant about, leaving him, basically leaving him. He didn't like the way the relationship ended. He's going to go do the same thing to his guys. And then Oklahoma City is going to be basically going to be an expansion team.
Yeah, that's what's going to happen, unfortunately.
Yeah,
it's hard for a team like Oklahoma to hang on to good players.
Yeah, for sure. And the same thing's going to happen to the Clippers. We're going to segue to Chris Paul. The Clippers are going to soon become an expansion team also.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
I mean, if you start trading away your stars, listen, we're both Montreal Expos fans. You don't have to explain it to us.
No one knows more about trading away stars.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the only way for a team like Oklahoma City to become good
is to draft Kevin Durant.
Draft and keep your draft picks.
Yeah, and the only way they can do that is to get bad. So I think that the Thunder are going to have to really get bad again if they want to get good again, and the same thing with the Clippers.
So you mentioned Chris Paul.
Yeah.
So there were rumors that he was going to get traded.
Well, because he basically said he wasn't going to re-sign. So what are they supposed to do?
Right. So he goes to Houston, which I mean, I don't know, I don't follow the NBA as much as you, but I was surprised.
Well, they gave a whole bunch of players, but I mean...
Yeah, 7 guys. And I've heard of 2 of them.
Well, who did you hear of? Patrick Beverley and Sam Decker?
Lou Williams, actually 3. I've heard of Montrezl Harrell as well.
Okay. But you don't know Sam Decker? He played on Wisconsin.
Oh, yes, okay. But I mean, I don't know if he's good in the NBA. I only know him on Wisconsin.
He's okay. Lou Williams is ancient. Patrick Beverley is a defensive player. And Montrezl Harrell maybe could be good, and the rest are garbage.
And there's a draft pick in there as well for next year.
Well, the draft pick is probably the best thing that they've got there. But, I mean, it's like anytime there's a trade like this, 7 for 1, it's no good.
It reminds me of when Gary Carter was traded for 4 guys.
Yeah. You know who they were?
Yes, Herm Winningham, Floyd Yeomans, Hubie Brooks, and why can't I remember the 4th
Mike
one?
Fitzgerald.
Right.
So Chris Paul's still the best guy in the trade, and we'll see how it works with him and Harden together. Harden had a great year because they kind of made him the de facto point guard, in a sense. Mm-hmm. Not guarding the other team's point guard at all, but
managing the ball,
managing the offense. So they're gonna have 2 guys. I don't think they're going to win more games clearly this year with Paul, but I don't think they're going to challenge for the championship. I mean, Paul is old. Paul is 32, 33, and he's injured every single season. He can't play a full season, and because the season is such a grind, by the time he gets to the playoffs, he's always beat up. And yeah, Paul was great. He still is great, but he's not durable. And I don't think the Rockets improved themselves, but if the goal is to win a championship, I don't think they're getting there anyways.
Well, I mean, they had to do something, right? Because they couldn't even beat San Antonio.
Right.
So maybe now they can beat San Antonio.
Maybe.
And also, I've heard that they're not done. They're still going to try and acquire more guys.
The one thing I love about the NBA is that usually when there's a rumor, it's true.
The other thing I love about the NBA is that the offseason's more interesting than the regular season.
It's true. But you know what I mean? Like, the NBA is the leakiest faucet there is. Like, as soon as there's a rumor, it's always true. It's like there's so many leaks. And then also Jimmy Butler was rumored to go to every single team, and no one saw that crazy trade happening, right? So
yeah, I mean, I don't know why the Bulls would trade their best player. He's not exactly old, I don't think.
You're right.
So that surprised me also.
Well, I mean, there was all kinds of rumors that he was going to go. It seemed like for sure he was going to leave, but I don't think they got it. I mean, everyone's panning the trade. Like, no one likes what they got for Jimmy Butler. They got Zach LaVine and Chris Dunn, both great players. And Zach LaVine had a great season. We'll see how he does on the Bulls. Chris Dunn, was a very high draft pick. Also a lot of potential. We'll see. But I mean, Jimmy Butler's, 25 points per game and an elite defender. So I think the Timberwolves with him and Wiggins and Towns is really dangerous now, right? It's a good looking team.
Did you see? And again, I'm not going to, assess the trade, but did you see the press conference to announce Jimmy Butler in Minnesota?
No.
So he's sitting there, and apparently there's some people who, I don't know, didn't like something that he said or didn't like something that he did. I don't know exactly what it was. And he said, look, if you want to talk to me, if you want to interview me, or if you want to say something to me, here's my phone number. He gave out his actual phone number.
Oh, I heard. But is it really his actual phone number?
Yes, it was. It was his actual phone number.
That's crazy.
And then he started getting all these phone calls from people he didn't even know.
The Skip and Josh Sports Show is back.
I got an alert on my phone that Paul George was just traded to Oklahoma City. They didn't give very much to get him. They gave up Victor Oladipo and Sabonis, the young Sabonis, who are two good players, but I mean they're both. Look, Sabonis Oladipo's a starter, and Sabonis could be a starter, but I mean they're no Paul George. Like, I don't really understand the trade.
Actually, I think I understand it now because I'm just processing it now because you just told me. But I think it makes sense for both teams because Indiana knew they were going to lose Paul George after next season anyway.
Right.
So whatever they get for him, it's just bonus, right? Because they were going to lose him. So they get two decent guys. And OKC, they might lose Westbrook after this coming season, right? He's a free agent after this season, not now, right?
Yeah. Well, this is probably trying to entice Westbrook to stay now.
Or they're going all in this year because they know they have Westbrook for this year and they're going to have Paul George for this year. So they're going all in for this year.
The only thing I can think of, because they didn't really give that much for Paul George, they probably don't have assurances like that they are going to be able to sign him. Otherwise, they really didn't give up a lot to get him.
I'm sure they're expecting to lose him after one season. I'm sure they are.
Right, because I told you, I thought that if the Celtics were going to get Paul George, they'd have to give Tatum to get him, and they didn't give up close to Tatum. I mean, look, Sabonis is a hard-working player, but he's not a game breaker. He's a rotation player, and Oladipo is he's good, but he's not great. So
it makes
good
the Western
for Oklahoma
Conference.
City. Yeah,
it makes the Western Conference a lot more interesting.
Well, now you have the Warriors who are loaded, and then Houston has their dynamic duo with Harden and Paul, and now Westbrook and George, right?
Right, and so now San Antonio, who has perennially been the number 2 team in the West, sometimes even the number 1 team in the West,
right?
They might have dropped down to 4th.
They probably did, or worse. Well, I mean, let's see what they do. I don't know if there's anyone big
left
out there that they're after. Well, there was rumors that Chris Paul was going to go to the Spurs, but that didn't happen. So I'm not sure where they turn their sights on.
I don't know who's left that they can acquire that can make such an impact.
No, I don't think there is. I mean, look, there's Hayward, but he's a free agent. But I mean, he's been just really rumored about going just to the Celtics or maybe the Heat or back to Utah, but nowhere else. So I'm not really sure.
I do want to talk. I don't know if you have any more trade talk to talk about.
No, but I wanted to talk about Phil Jackson.
Yes, I want to talk about the New York Knicks because this makes me laugh to no end. So, first of all, they finally fired Phil Jackson.
Or he quit.
He never should have been hired in the first place.
No.
They paid him way too much money to do nothing.
Right.
But listen,
I don't know.
Here's what I don't understand. Why did Phil Jackson re-sign Carmelo Anthony? Number one. Number two, why did Carmelo Anthony even want to re-sign with the Knicks? He knew they weren't going to win.
I think it's his wife.
It must be.
I think she likes it in New York.
That deal made no sense for Carmelo Anthony, and it made no sense for the Knicks.
Not at all.
And so now they're stuck with this huge contract.
Yeah.
And they can't get rid of this guy because I think he has a no trade clause.
And the thing is, look.
Well, anyway, they're not going to win, so it doesn't matter.
No, but they really need to get really bad.
Yes,
really
that's exactly
bad.
what they need to do.
And it's hard to get really bad when you have Carmelo because he's pretty good.
If they could get rid of him for a bag of basketballs, then you should do it.
Well, maybe at the trade deadline someone will be interested in him, but it's tough. It's really tough.
But when Phil Jackson was contemplating trading Porzingis, then you had to get rid of Phil Jackson because you got to build the team around Porzingis, not get rid of him.
He's the only asset they have.
Exactly.
I have friends in my coworkers that are Knicks fans.
Mm-hmm.
They are just like I haven't talked to them since Phil Jackson was let go. I'm sure they're thrilled, but I remember speaking to them a couple months ago. They're like, they're just embarrassed. They're embarrassed to be Knicks fans. They're embarrassed.
Well, they should be because that organization's a joke. I mean, you saw what happened with Oakley in the stands in the middle of the season.
Yeah.
That owner, Dolan, all he does is spend money because he's got tons of it, but he doesn't know what he's doing. And he always meddles.
He doesn't know what he's doing at all.
He doesn't.
He's the worst
I could
owner
run
in
the team
sports.
better than him.
Yeah, he's really pathetic.
He just covers up his mistakes with money. Anyway, so now there's all these rumors about who's going to replace Phil Jackson. So there's a few funny ones that I'm sure you've heard.
Well, Masai Ujiri was the first one, right?
Okay, but here's the thing about Masai Ujiri. The only rumors I heard about him going to New York came out of Toronto.
Yeah.
If you read any of the American websites or listen to any of the American sports talk shows, they don't mention Masai Ujiri at all. Right. I only heard those rumors because I happen to live in Toronto. So I think the Toronto media has a higher impression of Masai Ujiri than the rest of the NBA.
That makes sense, yeah.
So that's something that bugged me. But the funniest rumor was a rumor came out that John Calipari contacted, or one of his agents contacted the Knicks. It's because he said saying that he was interested in the president's position.
That's a joke. Come on.
And then the Knicks said, "We're not interested in you, John Calipari."
Oh, okay, first of all, that's even worse.
Okay, but then John Calipari, who's in Egypt coaching some under-18 team, tweets out that I never contacted the Knicks. No one that I know ever contacted the Knicks. I'm in Egypt coaching basketball. How could I have contacted the Knicks?
Right.
So the whole thing is hilarious to me.
If Calipari wanted to be in the NBA, he would have been in the NBA 15 years ago, right? Same thing with Coach K. Same thing, like these guys are college coaches. That's just the way it is, right? They're the NBA it doesn't appeal to them,
But nothing would surprise me with John Calipari. So if he did contact him, that wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah, that's true.
So I mean, I don't know how these rumors even come out, to be honest.
It's all made up.
It's hilarious.
So I mean, that's our takes on the NBA. I mean, we can talk forever and ever, but I mean, I think that's probably all we're going to talk about the NBA for the next little while, right? I mean, maybe unless there's a huge move made, or maybe till next preseason, right?
Who knows? I mean, I know that free agency opens for both the NHL and the NBA tomorrow.
Yeah.
So we'll see what happens. Maybe we'll do another basketball episode. Maybe we won't.
So I guess our next episode is going to be all about the NHL free agent frenzy.
Yes, it will be.
Yeah. Yeah. So the listeners can look forward to that. And again, skipandjosh.com. You can get all the subscription links. Funny little clips that we find on the internet are there. And just give us a like. Give us a like on iTunes. Give us a review. All that stuff.
Yeah, well, hope you enjoyed the show. And looking forward to the next one. And we'll try and do more than one episode a week.
Yeah. All right. Speak to you next time, Josh.
Okay.
The Skip and Josh Sports Show is over now. Don't worry, there'll be another episode soon.